Well, hello there, and thank you for joining me with another episode of Let's Draw with Legacy717 Studios. My name is Jeremy Cooper, and in this series I like to showcase when I'm working digitally a series of time lapses of whatever I'm working on, line art, coloring, sketches, or whatever is on my mind. And in the previous episode, this is actually a continuation of that last episode where I was requested by an artisan cohort of mine to color up our lovable plumber here that I did a study of. And that's what you're seeing on the screen. And as the video progresses, I will be going into the tones and shadows of how I laid all that out after I completed my flats. And if you did catch my previous episodes or seen any of my videos, I apologize ahead of time for the noises and stuff because I have a lot of animals and there's a lot of cars. So this is a new experiment for me to try to record without having to worry so much about what's going on in the background. But moving on, because I'm rambling, so as you keep going, this is just a quick video of the flats and stuff. So let's just get away from all this and let's do some art. Alright, so when I start out doing my tones and shadows, especially when I don't have a light source or a reference, because normally you would want to use reference from real life, photographs and stuff, I kind of just completely just put it down like a painter. And I just pop down colors and stuff, or where I think the shadows will be, or where I want things to pop and stuff, and kind of guesstimate or fudge it a little bit until I'm pretty much happy with it. And that's kind of what you're seeing right now. It's just quickly me putting where the colors and stuff are, and I'm like, oh, I think the shadow would be here, or it would go around this edge, or across the bill of Mario's hat or whatnot. And it's really messy, as you can see, and there's no it's not clean, it's not crisp, but that's kind of the way I do it, just so I can lay it all out and kind of get that initial anxiety, or when I go off the screen it looks like I did there. And that's the cool thing about working digitally, because you can do stuff like this and you can just pop everything down and you don't have to worry about destroying your piece. It's one of the reasons why I prefer to color digitally and whatnot. But when I do these shell shadings and stuff, again, it's just me just putting it down. I'm trying to feel what feels natural to it, or what I feel like is the correct placement for everything. And I don't worry about what it looks like. I don't worry about, oh, it's all a mess, and I can't use this, because that's kind of the way you got to do it. I mean, you got to kind of figure out where it is. Now, for some artists, they can pretty much put this down very quickly without having to worry about it, because they have enough experience, or their skill set is enough to be able to get away with it. Well, for me, I'm still learning. So that's why I choose to do it this way. And like I said in my previous videos, you gotta find what techniques and stuff that work for you. And you develop your skills around that, and how you develop your process and everything. So in the next part here, you're seeing me use the pen tool, which I like using the pen tool for very long curves, like around Mario's hat and everything, because I like my lines crisp and clean. Also, my hand shakes a lot, so it's a little bit easier for me to kind of lay down my initial tones and stuff for those long things without it being all jagged and everything. So that's why I kind of prefer using the pen tool, because I want to try to get it as clean as possible. Because when if it ends up on things like I've done, like on a shirt or something, or any other kind of apparel, I don't want it to be pixelated, because I'm working in raster versus working in programs like Adobe Illustrator, where it's all vectorized. So you could take our lovable plumber here, if he was vector, and blow him up on the sides of a billboard, and he'd be the same quality as he would just looking here on the screen. Well, with raster, you can't really do that. You can have a very high resolution, and I usually try to work somewhere between 300 dpi for my colors to about 600 when I'm just doing inks only, just because I want it to be as clean and crisp as I need it to be. But if you look at the screen in the background, you see all these squares, and that's what basically raster is when in Photoshop. If you would zoom in really, really close and get rid of all the other stuff, you'll see it's just little tiny squares that make up the image itself. So that's one thing you got to keep in mind when, I think, when you're doing this type of coloring, excuse me, doing this type of coloring and everything, that, you know, you want as clean as possible, in my personal opinion. And it's kind of like what I prefer, especially when you're doing cell shaded, because, you know, looking at references of like animes and animations and stuff, you know, when you look at cell shading, it's usually very clean and crisp. It's very defined. And since I see everything in lines every way, it's kind of what I prefer to do when it comes to my coloring. But again, as you can see, I'm just kind of playing around with it. I'm cleaning it up. I'm doing some stuff by hand, some with a pen tool, some of it I'm erasing out or drawing with the eraser, as it were. And you can see I keep zooming out, and you're probably like, why does he keep zooming out? Is he just trying to show us? Well, yes and no. A lot of it comes from the fact of one of my artistic teachers who always suggested that you take a moment and step back and to look at your work, to take it in overall as you're doing it. I even go in like a day later after I'm done and kind of look at my work again and see if there's anything I missed or anything that I'm like, I can do that better, I think, or this needs to be adjusted or whatnot. And you know, that's one thing you definitely need to consider, is like, even when you're done with the piece, you can still come back later with a fresh mindset and take a look at it again after you're completed, because you're probably going to catch things you miss or find things that you want to improve upon. So as you can see too, with except for me going with the red coloring there, because obviously I had chose the wrong color, you can see the difference of where, when I go back and clean up those lines at the end, you don't have that jagged pixelness. And that's another reason why I like kind of zooming in and cleaning all that up and just make it as smooth as possible. Even though it's really not smooth, because it's like, again, it's raster, it's pixels, but it looks a little bit better to just having that jaggedness. And that's what I'm trying to make sure is not seen. Plus, it's just, this is the way I naturally draw. When it comes to coloring and stuff for shadows, I just keep on putting it together, layering it up, messing around with it, going over it again and again until I'm like, oh, I love the way this looks, or, you know, this is too close to each other, or let me go ahead and zoom, you know, color in the side. And like I said, it's a little bit of like coloring with crayons, or, you know, with Prisma markers, because that's the background that I came from as a traditional artist. You know, I came into doing art and stuff from a traditional media, and then I was very happy when I finally got to digital. Needless to say, even though traditional is great. All right, so like my previous video with the flats, so I get rid of the background here, and I'm just going in and I'm cleaning up all that stuff that I missed, all those little gaps, everything that should have been there that I didn't get by hand, because like I said, my hand's not always steady. So I like to go in and just make sure all this is clean and every little gap is filled, because I want all my colors, especially the tones and stuff, to be solid, you know, to be a solid basically shape. And that's kind of how I see things. And you know, this technique doesn't always work for everybody, and I wouldn't suggest it, but hopefully it may help you with some things on how to do your own artwork, or how you, on your own creative journey when you're working digitally, or different techniques and stuff. And as you can see, I missed a spot on Mario's leg there when I was doing the inks. I don't know how, but at least that's another reason why I like zooming in and kind of catching all that, because even though I'm at this process, which I should have probably already had the inks and stuff done, I noticed that I catch things as I'm coloring. Somehow they just seem to pop more, or somehow I miss them. But that's pretty much it. I mean, this is kind of the way I do my tones and how I just lay things out. Like I said, there's other artists who do it differently, and I highly suggest you to go out and see what other things that artists do and how they handle their process and everything, and kind of compile your own arsenal to make what you feel like it works for you and learning. But don't be afraid to try different techniques. Like, you know, when I started out, I didn't really like the pen tool. I hated it, and now I just love it. I love using it, even though I can't use Illustrator. Which I've been wondering why people are like, hey, why can't you use it? Because it's totally different in Illustrator than it is Photoshop, it seems to me. Again, here we go. There's another mistake. I'm putting down the red, and I'm like, wait a minute. How did that get on my my ink line. So I had to go back, put all that back in. And like I said, when you're working digitally, I think this is very important to get rid of the background and, you know, really zoom in and see things and see what you miss and stuff. I mean, some people don't care. Some people are like, well, this is what you get, but this is just what I prefer to do, especially when I'm just putting together, even if it's just for myself or for a video like this. I still want to treat every piece I do like it initially is going to be sold by someone, or it's going to be reviewed by a potential client or employee, you know, or it's not me the one doing it. Wow, there's a lot of little gaps in this one this time, it seems. I must have been in a really hurry. But yeah, and I hope that you found something with this, though. I mean, just looking over everything, I'm sure you're like, wow, this is all going like really fast. You know, it's like he puts like a lot of tedious effort into doing this, and yeah, probably a little bit. But you know, I'm a little bit OCD, so this kind of just works for me. So. But if you have any other questions or comments and stuff, or any, you know, your thoughts that you might have, something I didn't cover in this video, because unfortunately you can't cover every single thing in one video, and you can only showcase, you know, a little bit at a time. So feel free to contact me, or email me, or contact me on any of the social media sites I frequent. All right, you guys have a great day, and thank you for watching. And remember, be good to each other, and never stop dreaming.
Here we go!